Hello again. Today we're going to be working on adding style to our page. We've already done a little bit of that, but there's a whole separate computer language of style rules. It can get really complex. Um, but there's a few basic rules which will make your pages a lot more readable and a lot more presentable. Um, but again, all this information is added through the text. You just add in new language. It's not like you change the font of what you display by, like you do in Word, by changing the font uh, as you type it. You have to add a little separate written rule which changes the font or the color or the size or any of that. There's different ways to add style, um, and there's different ways to divide the page up, and so the style rules can be applied um, by different to different locations. Um, the closest, the the most basic way to do style is called inline style, where each individual element you add a style rule. We've already done that. Um, that can be really ponderous. It's only useful, in limited circumstances. You could also write a single set of style rules for a whole page, um, which is much more usual. Or you could write a separate file, which will give you the style for a whole bunch of pages. Any page that links to it, um, any page that references a style sheet file, can follow the rules laid out in that style sheet file. That style sheet file would have a .css file extension. We're not going to be dealing with that kind of stuff right now. Mostly dealing with page level style. Um, Basically, we can change different types of font, different size, effects, color, um, and we can make exemptions to the rules. Um, like I said before, you can add style to an individual uh, element, but when you do that, the rule only applies to that individual element. So you'd have to write the style for every single element. That's not useful. Much more common is you write a style rule for a whole page. That's what you see on the bottom. Between the two style tags, this style rule will be nested in the head of the page uh, after the title. Um, it kind of looks similar, except that you have different layout a little, and you don't have quotes and things like that. But we'll see examples of this. Um, Individual element level style, inline style, is used often for exemptions, meaning you'll write a style rule for the whole page, and then you want to exempt one element, so you write a separate rule for that element. And the style rule that's closest to the element is the one that controls. So write an inline style rule unique to a single element, and the browser will ignore the broader style rule for that element and go with the specific one. You're writing a specific exception. Okay. So what are the interesting things we can do with style? Um, we can change fonts. We can change the color of lettering. We can change the color of background. Um, so colors. You can use any of the millions of colors available. Um, Nearly all colors have separate six-digit um, numbers. You enter the six-digit number for a color, and it has an X in it because it's partially hexadecimal. That's kind of silly. For most of the basic colors, you can just declare a rule that says blue, yellow, red, pink, brown, etc. Um, you can just you go color colon gray, and that will change the color of the font of the lettering. You could also go background colon gray, and then you get a background of that color. Really simple. Um, you could change the font weight to bold or lighter. There's hundreds of different fonts. Um, the most common ones that you'll see in your Word or whatever, your favorite, you just type the name of the font in the style rule or the size. So here's four style rules put into a simple page. Now these are inline style rules. Okay, they're not one page level style rule up top. Um, the fourth of them doesn't declare a font; it merely declares some colors. Um, and you can see it's when you're doing inline style, when you're styling inside the tag, you need to use these quote marks. Font. All the style equals set of quote marks, and then you write all the style rules inside. Font family will help you choose the font. The color will choose the color of the lettering. Font weight will choose the font weight, font size. All these rules have to be spelled out exactly as they're seen. You go font. You select the attribute, say font family, then a little colon, not a semicolon, then the name of the font, then a semicolon. Semicolons divide the different types of rule up. They're all divided by semicolons. And, you should actually end all the rules with semicolons as well, like in the bottom, like in line number 4. And let's see what it looks like. Okay. There's a problem in that the background color didn't come up in this one. And since I just imported a screenshot, I can't correct it right now. But imagine the bottom one has a pink background. But as you can see, the fonts change, font sizes change, the colors change. And what I do next, because we wanted to move along here, I moved one of the style rules to the top. This is the default style rule for the entire page. Since a style rule for the entire page is placed up in the head. Okay, and that rule will apply to everything on the page, and all the style at the individual tag level. That style will be limited, of course, to that particular tag. So we have a style rule up top which applies to all text except where a specific tag, a specific inline style rule changes for the individual tag. And of course, 5 out of 6 lines here have their own inline style rules. So the only tag which will follow the general style rule up top is the 6th line. And you can see the different fonts again. Tahoma and Helvetica look almost exactly the same. Helvetica has a serif. Arial and Helvetica look very similar. Pretty Verdana and Tahoma look very similar. But whatever you like. These are the easiest names to remember, frankly. That's why I use them. So there's also page backgrounds. You can add a background page. You can add backgrounds to individual text lines. which can look a little cheesy sometimes. I'll have one at the end. But you can, make it a little easier on the eye by adding a page background for each page. You could add a photograph, or you could add a color. You could add a design if it's a graphic image. You don't want it too busy because the user won't like it, find it hard to read. So second line on this, you can see right here, we have a rule for the entire page. So you had a style rule to the body tag, because there's only one body tag on an HTML page. So it's technically inline style, but you just add it to the body tag. We're adding just background color. And you specify a color. You could also add a background image. Inline line 4 is a background image style tag. I left out the hyphen there, sorry, but you can see it on the next line. It's background hyphen image colon, and then the URL, and then type in the URL. Notice the different use of quote marks. When you're doing inline style, the rule is enclosed in a quote mark. When you're doing page level style, the rule is only encloses when you're doing page level style, the quotes only enclose the value that you're setting off. But page level style, you would have body inside the style tags. You'd have body, curly brace, background, hyphen image, etc. And just like with images, background images, you don't load the image into the file. You just load a reference. You just type in a reference to a separate file. The browser finds the image in that separate file and displays it. And you have to make certain the image is in the same directory as the page, or you have to create a relative link referencing up or down the directory tree so you can find the image. So it's usually worth your while to copy the image into your page. You'll remember with links, remember with images, I showed you how you have to add a dot forward slash or 2 dots forward slash if the image is in a slightly different directory, if the image is in a different directory than the page. So here's we've added a background color to the page from before. You'll see the body tag, background color aqua. Let's see what it looks like. Very Miami. And it's fine for some stuff. Light and subdued colors are much more comfortable for people to read. And now let's add a background image instead. It's in the style tag. It's a style rule, inline style rule for the body element in this instance. Background image Wheatfield.jpg. Wheatfield.jpg is in the same directory, and that looks very nice. It's much more. It's very relaxing. It's a small photograph actually that I enlarged a couple of times to wash it out a bit, give it a little grain. So the image isn't very intense. The image is also a little out of focus and blurry. That relaxes the eye for the viewer. calls attention to the text, not the background image. Okay, and we're going to change, well, I've changed a couple things here. I've moved the background image up to the style rule at the head, page level style. I've added a couple other style rules at the page style level. You'll notice how inline style, again, looks different from page level style. Inline style lives inside the first tag of a tag set. Page level style lives within two style tags in the head of the page. You don't, the only quotes you use for page level style are in the value. Let's see what this looks like. I think I forgot to put quotes around the fonts. That's a problem, sorry. Maybe I'll have to redo this lecture. But until then, remember to put quotes around your fonts and page level style. Okay. So let's move on to IDs real quick. This is a simple thing. It's an important thing. It's pretty simple to understand, but it's a bit, once you start using ID on your elements, you're moving into higher level HTML programming. What you're doing is taking any element, a page element, or a paragraph element, a body element, an image element, any kind of element, and you're assigning it a separate ID of any kind. You give it a special name, you can give it a special number, and then that element can be singled out for special treatment at any time. You can declare a special rule that only applies to that element, So you add ID, a certain ID to a paragraph, and then at the top you write in a rule that says the element with that ID has to be printed out in blue. And then you could change the ID from paragraph 1 to paragraph 2, and paragraph 1 was blue and paragraph 2 will turn blue instead. IDs are assigned like style values. Line 3, you can see a paragraph has been given the ID Easter. Now we have a paragraph that has the ID Easter. And what I want to do is I want to add a different color scheme to the paragraph with the ID Easter. This is a good reason to have it. We only want one paragraph which wishes people Happy Easter, and we're going to add a little color to it so it's festive. And it would be silly to add color to the whole page. We only want to, we could do it, but a little festive touch. And especially, for a business page or something, Happy Easter with a little color is fine, but you're not going to change the entire page. And assigning the rule for the ID is very simple. Paragraph ID equals Easter in the element, and then for the style rule, for example, you type #Easter and then the style rule, and that will assign whatever style rules you want to the element that has the Easter ID, but only that element. And so we did it also with Halloween. So the third from last and last lines of this slide, you can see two rules which color paragraphs um, with those holiday name IDs, and only those paragraphs. And these particular rules live in the style set, the page level style at the top of the page. So it's going to look like this in your text editor. Inside the style tags up top, you've added special rules for hashtag Easter and hashtag Halloween. And then you've gone down and assigned IDs to Easter and Halloween paragraphs. Let's see what it looks like. What you've done is add a little holiday color. There we could change the doesn't have to go, the background can be truncated closer to the edge of the wording, but you get the idea. It's purple and pink, black on orange, and you can remove this text or comment it out when the season has passed. So that's a lot. What we did today was learn a new way to do page level style and inline style, assigning backgrounds, photo backgrounds, color backgrounds. Most importantly, what we learned was to assign IDs to individual elements, be they paragraph or image or heading or could be lists, could be columns, could be the body of the page entirely. You can assign an ID, and then you can, we're doing some special rules which would treat the ID differently. This is actually a much more powerful rule than it appears just here. You can use the ID designation to do all kinds of things for an element. Not just change its color, but assign how it's going to be treated when you script it, which comes later on. ID is very important. ID is really the first element of bigger, more powerful programming tools. So now you're out of the basic HTML into something a little bigger. We're going to go back and do some other more basic HTML because we're getting way ahead of our skis here. But thank you for sticking with it. I think that now you're starting to really learn something, and congratulations for sticking with it. It's not easy. See you soon.